So hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on strengthening regional collaboration and cooperation through higher education programs, partnership between Afghanistan and Thailand. And today we are looking at the theme of enhancing Afghan women's leadership in technology, science, and entrepreneurship through social business solutions. So thank you so much for registering and for joining us today. If you are just joining, please, we'd love if you could put your name, where you're coming from, and your organization in the chat. And we have the structure today. We will have a kind of a panel discussion, and then we will open the floor out to our participants as well to feed into, to ask questions, but also to share their experience and expertise and ideas on how we can develop and build the Yunus Professional Masters Social Business and Entrepreneurship. So we're looking forward to having our panelists with us today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I will hand over now to Kelly, who's going to give us a brief introduction as to how the kind of Yunus Professional Masters program, special program for Afghanistan came about.
Thank you, Eva, and welcome everyone. I'd also like to give my special thanks to our esteemed panelists here today, as well as all of our participants for partaking in this webinar. I'd also like to convey my appreciation and thanks to the Hollings Center for International Dialogue for supporting this webinar series. So as Eva mentioned, I thought I would briefly share about how the Yunus Professional Masters Special Program for Afghanistan came about, as well as one of our goals behind this webinar. So to do this, I'd like to briefly take a moment to introduce our incredible team, which includes Aoife and Dr. Mohibi. Dr. Mohibi, if you want to wave hello to all the participants. Aoife, Dr. Mohibi, hello. And great. Dr. Mohibi, Aoife and I all previously worked together with the UN Environment Program in Afghanistan and have had quite the experience working with the higher education and environmental sectors. Dr. Mohibi and I are also former alumni from the Asian Institute of Technology, where our program is based, and have had a long relationship with Dr. Feiss and the Yunus Center. So also part of our team, Dr. Feiss, who we'll get to hear from in a moment, who is Executive Director of the Yunus Center, is spearheading our program. And we have Saw as well, the Program Officer at the Yunus Center AIT, who is often behind the scenes, but does a lot of the hard work for us. And thank you, Saw, for coordinating this webinar for us today. So given our team's former collaboration, it was about 1.5 years ago that all 5 of us connected to see how we could adapt the existing Yunus Professional Masters program in social business and entrepreneurship for Afghan students. And our primary inspiration for adapting this program was really based on seeing how our friends and colleagues who are very dedicated to their work in Afghanistan and their communities, to see how we could develop a program that allowed them to feed their work back into Afghanistan. So in order to do this, we're currently working on adapting the 6-month curriculum component of our program to the unique development needs of Afghanistan and the opportunities there. So this webinar today plays a vital role in our program design, and we're looking forward to learning from all of our panelists and participants about ways that we can specifically adapt our program to fit the specific needs in Afghanistan. As Aoife mentioned today, we're focusing on a crucial thematic area, gender and technology, with a focus on increasing Afghan women's participation in technology, science, and entrepreneurship. So I eagerly look forward to learning from our panelists and all the participants joining us today. Thank you for being a part of this webinar. I'd like to now invite Dr. Feiss to explain our broader goals and more about our program. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kelly. And well, I'd also like to add to your welcome and to say how delighted we are that you're all here. I'm also privileged to welcome alongside Kelly and Aoife the distinguished panel we have today. I think we couldn't have gotten a better panel for this workshop, webinar. So please accept our grateful thanks for being able to make time Regional collaboration has been part of my work for the past 40 years. And I've also been fortunate to have worked in Afghanistan, first in the mid-90s and then as late as 2018, working with universities there to build capacity and to build research agendas with other regional partners. So I'm quite, well, happy is the wrong word, but privileged to be part of this because this is of particular importance not only to Afghanistan itself, but also any aspirations of regional cooperation that we entertain, particularly for those countries or regions where it's not a given, it's not an automatic consequence of interaction across the region. So I'm really happy that Kelly took the initiative, and Dr. Mahibi and Aoife as well, to actually forge this thing together. I was also keen to project this thought that, dialogue is great, but it needs to come in handy for some essentially productive community growth. Building capacity for women has always been an agenda at the top of various dialogues. But when it comes to actually pulling it together, nothing does it better than opening up doors of higher education to women. You can skill them, you can integrate them, you can do wonderful things with collaborative techniques and all. But nothing really opens doors like higher education does. And it's not only for women, of course. It's also for men, but particularly for women in certain areas or certain communities or certain professions. So that's what engages me in this whole enterprise. We think that getting women aligned, prepared, and inducted into higher education, that then opens doors for them for higher education, for building roles that they will be able to cooperate with, and also purely for the fact that a lot of women have been purposely left behind through very systematically limiting access to higher education in certain parts of our region. So all that drives at least me. And I'm happy to see that it drives the rest of us as well as a motivation. I've also wanted to express how important it is to build meaningful collaborations across the region, beyond the region, across various fields, so that a lot of what we talk about actually gets done. So the idea of creating the Yunus Masters, and it took us quite a while to build that over the years, would not have been possible without the example of Professor Muhammad Yunus, the famous Bangladeshi economist, who prioritized in his work the role for women through his Grameen initiatives, through a lot of the work that he's done in Bangladesh and now in more than 35, 40 countries, where the priority has always been the economic empowerment of women, not because it's some evangelical thing, but it simply makes economic sense to create women who are empowered economically and financially. And the step ladder to that often is education and skilling. So I think we need to build that collaboration. And this is one way that we are doing so. And we're delighted that the Hollings Center has seen this as a worthwhile activity to invest in, along with the Yunus Center at AIT and Sustainable Smiles. I'd also like to encourage, as a consequence of this, more meaningful inputs into the curriculum itself. Of course, we've designed this curriculum not in isolation. Dr. Mahibi is Afghan. Kelly has taught in Afghanistan, and I can also claim some linkage to the country over the last 25 years. So it's not in isolation. So what we've done is actually customized to a large extent the curriculum to respond to the needs of the average applicant from Afghanistan. But we still require much more fine-tuning, insights, more finer perhaps points that will even further enrich our curriculum and our offerings for the Yunus Masters. I do have to mention that this program was a bit of a maverick as programs go, because it is designed for non-traditional students. And within AIT, which is the region's perhaps one of the most regionally recognized research universities, building in a program that is open only to non-research or non-academic candidates was quite an interesting advancement, if you may say. So this program attracts people who don't want jobs. In the famous words of Professor Yunus, they are not going to be job seekers. We're building them to be job creators, which basically means putting everything that we teach them in class into this whole new perspective of entrepreneurial thinking, of go-getting, of getting stuff done because it makes them money as a consequence of the good they're doing or as a process of the good they're doing. So with Yunus as our exemplar, and because Yunus has had a strong impact on the design of the program, we find that this program has started to attract attention. And I'm happy to report to everyone, which might come as a surprise to my own team as well, that I just came in from Malaysia, where we've been accorded full national accreditation for this program. So we will be announcing it in July and hopefully launching a Malaysian edition of the Yunus Masters in October, inshallah. And also, this will, of course, be more affordable to the kind of candidates we're pitching. So some good news. Finally, I'd also like to sort of close by saying that all this is not possible without extensive partnerships, yes, but also with certain, fewer, but more poignant, intensive partnerships. And for that, I'd like to give the example of Noor, who's I'm proud to say, our student, and who's the first candidate of the special program in Afghanistan for the Yunus Masters. And I think Noor's a better person to tell you how easy, quote unquote, it was to actually get admitted and across to Bangkok from where she was. And so that's another story. But it gives me pleasure every time I look at the prospects for candidates like Noor. And we think that this is something that really is attractive to other people as well. The Yunus Masters is a difficult program to get into because we don't check the regular boxes for academic credentials, for having scores or meeting test guidelines. We look at what they've said in their statement of purpose. And if we see a glimmer of an entrepreneur in there, they're in. Because we don't want them to just study and get out and look for jobs. We want them to actually change the program as they go through the program, as our Yunus Masters candidates have done already. So one of them started a rather on what we thought was an impossible task of building a bamboo construction business. And he's acquired funding, he's working on it. The other one started a food security business. He's done so well that he's actually now supporting 3 graduate studentships in the Yunus Masters, paying for other students that follow him to help pay for their costs at AIT. And we're hoping that more such dynamic people will come in. And I'm holding off on Noor's story because she has to tell it. But the fact that every one of these guys, when they leave, they will actually be able to build the program by what they do rather than what we teach them. So, I mean, it was a longish spiel. I shouldn't have spoken that long, but I thought this was important to set the kind of context for what we're doing and where we're at with the Yunus Masters special program for Afghanistan. And I hope that this particular program will be able to guide us as well as invigorate the spirit amongst the people that are listening. And who knows, we might get a few more Noors, many more Noors, hopefully, and get this program off to our second edition in a second country as well. So thank you for that, Aoife, and back to you as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Feist. It was a wonderful overview of the program, and I think the importance of education, but also, of having, again, these giving the opportunities to these bright, passionate people who really want to make a difference and again want to contribute. And as you say, are creators, job creators rather than job seekers. So that was a lovely overview of the program. So I think what we might do is we might hand straight over to Noor. We're very excited to have Noor with us today as our first student, and and she happens to be a female student as well in the AIT program. So Noor, thank you so much for being here with us today, and we're very looking forward to hearing about how you're getting on. And I believe your idea for your practicum, your practical project. So thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Fa, and thank you for inviting me. And hello to everyone. And I'm here to share with you my journey in joining the Yunus Professional Masters in Social Business and Entrepreneurship. So far, my journey has been a little bit challenging, but yet an incredible experience. And I'm happy to have this opportunity to talk about it today. So while working in the field of environment and climate finance, alongside with being engaged with communities in Afghanistan, greatly fostered my interest for an area that can intersect or cover the aspects of environment, climate, and business all at once. And when I learned about this program, its idea of combining the business acumen with social impact deeply resonated with me. And as we know, business is a great force for bringing a positive change in any community. And I thought that this master program offers this great and perfect platform to learn and cultivate the necessary skills which are required to bring such a kind of positive change in a community. And that's how I decided and joined this program. So through my participation so far in this program, I have been taking different classes and courses, such as project planning and management, service marketing, as well as natural resources economics, so while I had some prior information and knowledge about environmental aspects, these classes and courses help me in understanding the business terminologies and concepts. So I was able to gain some insights into the establishing of a business, how to strengthen a brand, and how to advertise your brand or your business effectively. This has been, the skills or knowledge that I have gained so far. And I hope these knowledge skills will help me in designing my own social business plan, which I'm happy to talk about, at least about the idea I have in mind right now. And my social business plan focuses on the production of biobriquettes, which is a low-tech solution derived from agriculture residue. And biobriquettes are eco-friendly alternatives to the traditional fuels, and they uses or utilize the agricultural waste to create sustainable energy sources. So by addressing the environmental and the social concern, I believe that this venture has the great potential to create a significant impact on communities and beyond. And my plan for now is to write a project about Afghanistan, but implement a pilot project in Pakistan with support from an NGO called RISK, which Dr. Faiz talked about earlier. So it focuses on the production of food for the least fortunate people through such kind of social businesses and through donor fundings. So for me, although this program has already equipped me with some knowledge, which is helpful in bringing my social business plan to life, but I'm also looking forward to the practicum component of this program, where I will be able to engage in field labs, in case reviews, and some practical business development workshops. So I hope for the rest of my time in this program, I will be able to acquire more entrepreneurship skills, like from understanding the market dynamics to how to conduct feasibility studies and how to develop a robust business model. That will be helpful and instrumental in shaping and refining my social business plan. Yeah, so that's my plan, and that's it from my side. Once again, thank you so much, and thank you for your time. And I will also welcome the participants to ask any question if they have regarding my experience in the Yunus Master's program during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Noor, thank you so much. It's great to hear that you're getting on well and that it's challenging but rewarding. And it's wonderful to hear that you already have an idea for your project. So that's fantastic to hear, and just well done. And we're delighted to have you here with us, but also in the program. So thank you for sharing your experience. So I think what we will do now is we will go straight to our panelists and panel discussion, and I will introduce our panelists. So first of all, thank you so much for being here with us today. To each of you, Dr. Ala, Shireen, and Hosai, and was out there. Okay, so Dr. Ala Abdulhakim Abdulaziz, Dean of Faculty at the American University of Afghanistan, is joined on the 12th of on July 2016 as an associate professor of information technology and the chair of science, technology and the mathematics division, and he received his PhD in computer science, focusing on cybersecurity from the University of Technology in Malaysia in 2016. And he's been working in the field of computer science, specifically cybersecurity, for the past 10 years, and has designed and taught many cybersecurity courses for undergraduates and worked as a cybersecurity consultant. And he's been the project manager for a number of projects, but most recently for the American University of Afghanistan Tech and Design Bootcamp for female high school graduates. And this is a program designed to support newly graduated female high school students as they prepare to enter university. So thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Ala. What I will do is I will introduce everybody, all our panelists, and then we will, in the panel discussions, we have a number of questions for our panelists. So we'll be able to hear about each of your really interesting backgrounds and projects then, but thank you for being with us. Ms. Mozgan Wafiq Al-Khazai is the founder and CEO of the Eagle Online Academy, and this offers mentorship, coaching courses, career development, specifically for women and girls, whose goal is to expand access to online education opportunities for women. And she founded Impressive Consulting, which is based in Kabul, Afghanistan, and is a member of the US Afghan Women's Council and a Presidential Leadership Scholar alumnus, a council member for Welcome.us, and serves as an advisory board member to the Afghan Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industries, as well as serving on the International Advisory Board for the Institute for Economic Empowerment of Women. She opened the first ever women's cafe in Kabul, Kabul's Women's Garden, at the age of 19, and subsequently the first fully female entrepreneur shopping mall that provided 33 women an opportunity to start their own businesses. And she has mentored and provided opportunities for female entrepreneurs across Afghanistan, and has more accolades and awards than I could fit into this brief introduction. So I will let Mozgan tell us more about her work with the Eagle Online Academy and in our panel discussion. But thank you so much for being here with us today, Mozgan. And Ms. Hosai Zermati Halim is the founder of Let's Learn, a school, Women's Way. And Hosai Zermati Halim was born in Kabul, Afghanistan, and immigrated to Canada with a family at the age of 9 when the Taliban took over Afghanistan initially. And she completed her education in criminal justice and public policy, and presently she serves as a parliamentary assistant to a minister of in the House of Commons in Canada. And in May 2022, Hosai founded Let's Learn with a group of like-minded friends, which is a teaching platform focusing on catering education to females from grades 7 to 12 in different parts of Afghanistan. And it goes beyond traditional classroom learning by leveraging technology and remote teaching methods. And the curriculum covers a wide range of subjects such as math, science, language, social studies, as well as vocational skills training, digital literacy, life skills development, development and making, education accessible to Afghan girls who face many challenges in accessing education, as we've, heard earlier on, and as many of us are familiar with now. The situation in Afghanistan. And I believe Let's Learn started with 20 students, and they're now catering to more than 100 students, and the organization is growing. So thank you for being with us, Asai, and we look forward to hearing more about this initiative. And last but not least, Ms. Shireen Sheikh Bahai, Director of Science at the Canary Wharf College. Shireen is a British-Iranian science educator and completed an undergraduate degree in astrophysics. And she holds a master's degree in science education, and her PhD research is on students' cognitive processes and questioning at the UCL Institute of Education. And as she once explained to me, this is a PhD in thinking about thinking, which I thought was a great way of describing it. And she is also the Director of Science of a multi-academy trust in London. And her expertise is in curriculum pedagogical approach and assessment in science, teaching and learning. And she designs and leads on educational courses and programs for teacher education and professional development. And she has authored several award-winning science projects, programs, and educational resources across many organizations, and is an advisor, educational advisor to Big Innovation Center, the AI education in the Middle East and North Africa, and to AI gaming educational platform, and academic advisor to ITSA Digital Media. And she collaborates with various institutions and organizations, including NASA Educational Department and STEM education. So as Dr. Faiz said, we couldn't have gotten a better panel to be with us today. So thank you so much to each of you for being here. And I will open it up to our panelists now with the first question, which is, and Muskan, perhaps you might take this question. And the question is, what was the state of female leadership and participation in tech and science prior to the Taliban takeover in August 2021, and what is it now? I believe you're on mute. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Actually, based on my understanding, the 20 years of the change in Afghanistan, which was incredible and visible, and the numbers never lie. So we have been connected to high technology, driven on better roads, received better medical services, and got a better education and other opportunity to succeed in different sports, with our male and female athletes bringing so many medals at home. Women have also been good participation in the public lives, holding political offices, pursuing business opportunities, and more than thousands of Afghan women have started their own businesses by 2019. And Afghan women and girls had the chance to live 20 years of their dream lives and practice their real democracy, freedom of speech, right of living of their choices. And before the Taliban took over Afghanistan, there was a lot of efforts happened to increase the number of female participants in tech and science. For example, I can talk about our program, Eagle Online Academy, that we provide cybersecurity classes, cloud management, graphic design, and we got the opportunity to graduate 220 students from 13 provinces of Afghanistan by July 2021, just 1 month away from Taliban took over Afghanistan. And the other good example is it's about Afghan girls robotic team. So everybody is very familiar with that team, and they are very popular right now. So the Afghan girls robotic teams gains international recognition for their achievement in robotics competition. So this is another big change and achievements in tech area. And of course, the same, many other organizations like American University of Afghanistan, Food for Girls, and such programs put their efforts to increase the number of women and girls in tech areas. But however, the current situation under the Taliban. So now the girls are not allowed to go to school above grade 6. And so, of course, it's very clear that they are not allowing girls to continue with their higher education, or especially they are very against of technology and science. Because I remember one of our students in Herat, she was supposed to graduate from computer science faculty by 2022. And unfortunately, when she has been to the university and the Taliban told her that there is no more computer science classes for girls. Please go home and stay there. And at that time, the universities were open, but still the Taliban put a limitation on some subjects that the girls are not allowed to continue with their education. One of them is computer science, that the Taliban believes that computer science, economic or business classes are not for women anymore. So now I couldn't see any hope, or unfortunately the Afghan women and girls' life is in uncertainty and in dark situation. So there is no progress, of course, but there is a lot of back forward situation for Afghan women and girls, especially in STEAMs or technology and science. Thank you.
Thank you, Muskan. Yeah, and as you say, we have obviously they're the primary obstacles to women in Afghanistan in accessing any type of education. And then when you look at the niche kind of area of science, technology, economics, and maths that is already globally kind of quite a male-dominated sector, we look at it's even more challenging for women to enter that space. So they're kind of doubly challenged in accessing. But I guess that leads into our next question. And what I will do is I will ask Dr. Ala and perhaps Hosai, if you could speak maybe a little bit to the primary obstacles that are currently hindering Afghan girls and women from pursuing education and careers in science, technology, and social business.
Yeah, first of all, let me thank you for inviting me to be part of this amazing event. I think this event is perfectly aligned with the American University of Afghanistan mission to empower women in leadership positions, especially in STEM. It's my honor to be here with the distinguished panels and also amazing participants. So to address your question, I have some points that I would like to mention them. Number one is currently the Taliban entity banning education and for women, not only education but also working in Afghanistan is one of the major challenges. And the second point is the current school curriculum. I don't know if you hear about it, that Taliban is revising and introducing, and they focus more on religious knowledge and doesn't really equip the students with the required STEM knowledge. As I think majority knows that in Afghanistan, the girls they scare from math. And the reason because they don't have enough support. They don't have trained, qualified teachers who let them like the subject, which makes them be away from STEM area. The Afghan culture itself is not encouraging women to take any STEM major, and the women there, they have a lot of responsibilities at home, and sometimes it's prevent them from continue their higher education. There is a huge lack alignment between what they have learned and what the market needs. So like you mentioned, globally is in the STEM area is dominated by majority of men, and it's even worse in Afghanistan. And one of the reasons you can say is like family, they support the men rather than the female. They give them all the needed necessary equipments to help them, such as laptops, phones, tablets. They encourage more the boys to go and continue, but not the female. You find sometimes a female stay 1, 2, 3 years in a university. They don't even have a laptop. So, and one of the things that I realized that the students, they don't really understand the benefits of STEM career. So they really don't know after they finish what they can do. Majority of, I mean, you find that the girls, they have this idea is like, I want to be a teacher or I want to be a doctor. That's it. So they don't really know what's the apply or what's the different careers. Or for example, if they take one of the STEM area, they can do their work from home. So that's lack of knowledge. I think it's also one challenge. So yeah, thank you. That's what I wanted to share with you.
Thanks, Dr. Alla. And I think you raise a really, it's such an important point. We can talk about women's access to education and, being more present in the sector. But when they lack basic access to a laptop, a phone, these things, like, we need to make sure that those basics are there so that, people can, women can participate. And also, as you say, it's so important, the understanding the application of, of the work. Sometimes in education and higher education, we can be in a little bit of a bubble, and and it's so important that we're able to have the opportunities, but know how that can be applied in the real world. And I think that's where the social business and kind of entrepreneurship space is so important, because it's like taking those those concepts and those ideas and allowing them to kind of come to fruition in a really practical way that can benefits communities, benefits society. So thank you, for raising those points. And Jose, I'm not sure, did you have a few ideas as well on some of the obstacles to women in science, technology, and social business?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you to everybody who is putting this together. This is exactly the platform of solution that has created from here, and it is moving forward. As far as the obstacles are concerned, you have to understand, as Dr. Alla pinpointed out, it is a political situation that has hindered and created several obstacles for women in their education and careers. And it begins with lack of resources. A simple thing as basic access to a physical structure where they can go, sit down, and have their education move forward. Basic needs such as Wi-Fi connection in order to operate the whole system. On top of that, then you have factors such as famine and the possibility of poverty basically lurking in on top of this issue. But however, I know we're talking about obstacles and barriers. Afghanistan is blessed with a young population. We need to remember that. And half of which are females. Bright minds, and it's bright minds on the verge of giving up. That is basically the risk. So there's need to be main obstacles for women is preventing these women from giving up. Taking the initial steps to make sure this happens is so by providing simple things such as Wi-Fi access to have the ability to become an important factor in continuing their education. On top of that, you have issues, as again, Dr. Alla pinpointed out, is the isolation of the country from the rest of the world. And again, this comes back to the legitimacy of the de facto government being questioned. Now, then you begin to ask, to make a population suffer, and that to the most vulnerable due to the government in charge, you question your morality. Is this really necessary? Okay, we understand, here's the hinder, but what are the solutions? So in the case of Let's Learn, our organization questions, what can we do? Where do we start to begin tackling this and these problems? That's basically.
Thanks, Jose. Yeah, no, I think you raised such an important point there. On the one hand, there's absolutely the basics, simple Wi-Fi connection, having somewhere to go, and the kind of wider you know, the wider threats of you know, insecurity and extreme poverty as well, but also that disillusionment that happens in a situation such as this, where you have bright minds who are on the verge of giving up. And I think it's so, you know, women in general are very susceptible to that, but also in especially in these spheres, science, technology, economics, and maths, where, you know, as Dr. Ala mentioned, the gap between their knowledge and what, you know, what the market can offer them is so huge. So I think such an important part of that as well is women being able to see examples of other women doing it, and you know, being able to see opportunities for themselves, but also the wide array of other female leaders and thought leaders in the space, so that they can, you know, have a pathway or a role model to look up to. So thank you for raising that really important point as well. And I think that leads nicely into our next question, which I think I'll pose to Shireen as a leader and thinker, thought leader and researcher, and in the science, kind of technology, maths, and education space. I guess, you know, what measures can be taken to establish networking spaces to facilitate women's support and collaboration in science and technology? Oh, I think you're on mute, Shireen. Yeah.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much for having me as a panelist in this fascinating program. It's been absolutely an honor listening to everyone, and enlightening, to be honest, as an educator. So, when it comes to education, things need to be clarified. So there are lots of different challenges that we are talking about in here. So, you know, the resources and the restrictions and the whole environment of education right now in Afghanistan, each one of them is an individual challenge that, when it comes to education, need to be considered carefully. But in terms of network, we have so many different networks. So I've been listening to Dr. Shah and the rest of the colleagues in here. And if we want to look at the networks from educational point of view, only towards science education, science and technology, there are so many different networks that we can access. From distance we can deliver, and the teaching and learning can happen. However, some of these networks require particular curriculums or an end product or certain level or certain age. For example, for teacher training, you need to have certain qualification in order to go further. Or it can be post-16 that all you need to do is just to have some basic knowledge about science and technology to carry on and get to your degree or further. Or for other advanced programs that definitely have different requirements. So these networks can be categorized and classified and can be approached according to our needs. However, we need some preparations on our side. So, and to me, finding and selecting a good network depends on the curriculum and the program that we are following in here. So do we plan to educate the women and put them back into an environment that they cannot work and apply their knowledge in practice? Or just giving them the right to be educated, which to me is absolutely crucial and essential. However, in the situation that we are, and me as a colleague, Elaine, and next to all the colleagues and people of Afghanistan, we need to be really, really careful about what we pick in here and what we choose and who we approach, because the productivity of it is going to be affected. So if we have an aim-based curriculum, which I think that is going to shape the network that we are approaching, then that aim-based curriculum need to be aligned by certain businesses or processes or network in order for them to fund, to support, and to deliver. And these networks are not related to the resources. That is completely something different. But providing opportunities for the individual to participate in a program increase this chance. And so the more number of the participants and the students we have in different educational programs toward different purposes, and for different end products, give us better chances to approach different networks and put our bets in. So this is pretty much what I do really. We in educational program, I work with a really large number of educators and educational providers, from digital providers to STEM education, to teacher training. And that's what I do with the schools and with the teacher training. And I know that the number of educators and learners who are involved in different programs affect the network that we can approach. But yeah, apart from that, I think the funding and the end product as employment is another thing that we need to look at. So in the region right now, as Dr. Shah mentioned, there are so many new developers and new developing countries that they have extremely great chances for employment, for fundraising, to investment, to provide resources, for partnership. And people in Western countries and all around the world are now that they are invested in the region. And again, I don't think that Afghanistan can be isolated, especially because the female forces are quite huge. So international support is another one. We can have short courses, we can have get longer programs, we can have internship that is quite popular in UK itself. And so many different options that we have. We just need to have a clear aim in each program. It doesn't mean that we need to run one program, but we need to have a very clear end product in each program. And I think that the opportunities are out there. As far as the network is quite familiar with the cultural shift that these participants need to go through and the challenges and obstacles that they have in front of them. And I'm speaking as an Iranian person who's been out of country for more than 2 decades, almost 30 years. And I know that there are so many things that need to be calculated throughout the program. But yes, I think that the digital network and the STEM and science providers, they have good networks, wide networks, and good funding that we can use as long as we are quite clear about the programs and end product. I hope it helps.
Thank you, Shireen. And I absolutely would like to echo the importance of having that clarity and very clear outcomes so that you can tailor your approach, your curriculum, but also building partnerships to really strategically, align with that and be able to support that in the most effective way. So definitely thank you for your input there. I think it's so important as well. And yes, it was just wonderful connecting with you, I suppose, hearing about your work and as well your work in tailoring education and curriculums, both to, the teachers' kind of capacity and the resources available, but also to the students to make sure that the learning and, what they're digesting, what they're learning comes in a digestible format. So, I think you're, having those two, the really clarity on the aims and objectives, but also the flexibility to be able to adapt, your approach. And I think that's where this program is very, very strong as well, is that, as Dr. Faiz mentioned, it's very tailored, highly tailored and highly flexible in terms of how, its response to be able to support each student in the best possible way to, get the best possible outcomes for their project and their ideas. So yeah, thank you for that. I guess I'd like to open it out now to the full panel, but maybe Dr. Ala Hosai Mojgan specifically. What strategies are Let's Learn, American University of Afghanistan and Eagle Online Academy using to create more inclusive academic environments so that girls can pursue or advance their careers in tech, science, and entrepreneurship? And I have to say, it was wonderful just learning about the work that you are doing, and so inspiring to know that those options are available for women and girls. And this online platform that we have, this is the amazing capacity. You're really demonstrating the amazing capacity of how it can be used in these specific types of situations. So yes, I will open it out to you three to maybe speak a little bit more about the work that you've been doing.
Sure, and I'll just take a lead on that one. So strategies for Let's Learn is basically the whole idea. When I brought up the element of Wi-Fi, it is collaboration and connectivity. So the collaboration and connectivity basically becomes possible with the understanding of the contextual situation on the ground in Afghanistan and the regions. which we're basically working in. For instance, access to education in rural areas versus the city. So you do a comparison between what are the commonalities and the differences when learning is adapted in these two regions. Further, collaboration and connectivity are, of course, possible through Wi-Fi connections, and our donors basically support Let's Learn, and their contributions make this Wi-Fi connectivity possible. Specifically, obviously, for females who are eager to learn. The donations are, of course, then sent to Afghanistan, where the teams on the ground distribute it and documents all of the logistics on a month-to-month basis. Let's Learn has also created classes in, of course, entrepreneurship, sciences, and technology on the ground to be accessed freely by girls specifically from grade 7 to grade 12. And again, this is the most vulnerable that have been restricted, so it has to go to them first. Female empowerment through entrepreneurship, I believe, is key. I have believed this since the idea of conducting it when I was like 9 years old and wishing to build my own school. And this is what those classes focus on creating an inclusive academic environment through the online platform of Let's Learn. And this is for the time being, of course. Another strategy is the promotion of local learning, meaning whatever is available on the ground will become their initial mechanics of using what they need to use. Here, we are not talking about a blank slate, rather a slate which already contains certain tools that can be taken advantage of. For instance, let's take the example of a female baker in the village whose daughter is attending our classes. She will be exposed to methods of marketing in the village and understanding ways of creating profit out of that skill being taught. In this case, I'll refer to her, for example, as Spojmai. So Spojmai will speak to neighbors about her mother taking more orders of baked breads, and should they wish to bake, Spojmai's mother is willing to do it for a particular cost. Again, the contextual circumstance of this situation gives opportunity for entrepreneurship, and that applies uniquely to each case of the girls, of the female students, I should say. So with science, it can reach as far as learning from the tomato farmer in Turkey, for instance. Let's go to that one. Who is willing to give lessons on soil improvement and how that can grow certain vegetables based on the soil that they have. And finally, as technology is concerned, thanks to collaboration with Code for Kids and Lesson Space, teachers from South Africa have been teaching the Afghan girls on the ground, training them on coding and robotics. Each teacher receives a certification of completion after their training, and they will begin to teach the students of Afghanistan through Let's Learn.
Thanks, Azai. It's wonderful to hear those practical examples. It's amazing what people can do, you know, and as you say, it's, you know, starting from empowering people to really start and look around at the resources and their environment and look at around, you know, what they can use in their immediate environment, because really everybody has, you know, has something, you know, that, and it's just supporting people to really be able to look at their environment as opportunity rather than as, you know, something that's inhibiting. So yeah, thanks for those examples. They were brilliant. And Mojgan and Dr. Ala, do you also have some words to share with us on what the work you're doing?
Yeah, actually, Eagle Online Academy provide many different classes. So it's cybersecurity, cloud management, graphic design, and business management classes. And we have extended our services to not only serve Afghan female in the ground, and now we are also serving Afghan female refugee based in our neighboring countries, or with a limited access to education or no access to education. So we provide them with the classes, and beside that, we also have e-mentorship program to support the student to understand the concepts of their study and then continue with some of specific projects. For our business classes, we conduct 3 months small business management class from feasibility study to business plan writing, and then we will ask our student to present their idea to our partners just to make sure they get funding for their ideas to start it or to extend their ideas. And then we will provide them with the e-mentors based on we matched their business with some existing business owners to serve them as a e-mentor and help them with their with the startup of their business or extension of their businesses. So this is what we are providing at this point. And beside that, we also focusing on English classes because we understand it's very important for all entrepreneurs to understand English because so it's like it's an international language and they need to communicate with the international world at some point. So yeah, so this is the 3 areas that we're focusing at this point. Take care.
Thank you, Muskan. That's brilliant. And as you say, it's unfortunately, the languages thing is such an essential part these days, especially in this globalized world where the kind of opportunities for connecting internationally and regionally is, are even more so nowadays. But it's fantastic to hear about, the kind of the range of supports that you provide in terms of the mentorship, but then also the opportunities to be able to present to funders to really kind of bring that, into being. So yeah, it's wonderful to hear about the work that you're doing. And I suppose I would just like to maybe reflect on the vision, which is on your website, which I just think is a beautifully encapsulates what you're doing and possibly what we're all doing, which is, we chose the name, the Academy, we chose to name the Academy Eagle because we hope that women from developing countries who often have the least opportunities will dream big, fly high, and see their abilities as a sky with no limit. And I just thought that was a really beautiful, oftentimes when we're in these contexts that are so serious and the situation is so serious, we're looking at, security issues, poverty. It's so important to remember that we still have dreams. People still have dreams, and we can get very focused on survival and basic needs, but it's so important to be able to recognize that as well. So it's just fantastic to hear the work that you're doing. Thank you. And then Dr. Ala, if you could tell us a little bit about your boot camp. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, for me, I'll address this question is by sharing the strategy that American University of Afghanistan is implementing and follow. So we really start early from high school students. So I can speak from the 3 different phases: the high school students, then the undergrad, then after they finish their study with undergraduate. So what we are trying to do is we need to keep the pipeline of the education starting from there. And we need to make sure that to equip the students with the needed skills that they can be competent for the market, but also qualified for the international standards for undergraduate programs. So what we have been doing is, I'll speak first with the high school students, which is we try to make a survey and study the markets in Afghanistan for the technology area. And we try to identify, we started like end of 2019 in this project, which is we try to identify like what are the jobs are advertised, and we try to collect information from private sectors. And also we have advisory boards, which the advisory board, the members is content from private sectors, from universities, from NGO, from all over. So we try to collect this information and identify if the Afghan women high schools, they wanted to do a part-time or they want to have a job. So what is the IT skills, the basic one they need to know? So this is one thing that they will empower them so they can continue their study at the same time. They can have an income so they can be independent. So from early stage since high school. So according to that, market needs result. So then we move forward to train. Also, we did a training for high school teachers, especially the private one, for the way how they can deliver in the best practices with online classes, especially for science and STEM, like the online simulation tools, and how they can deliver the class in a way that the students will really like the STEM area. So, and then we move into like, okay, we gather students, then we try to, we did offer the first bootcamp that addressed the market needs. And that bootcamp was in 2020. That was the first bootcamp. And then from there, we built a series of bootcamps. Now, almost every year, we are having a bootcamps. We are training almost from 50 to 100. This bootcamp now is going to happen next month, 2nd of July. We have 11,000 applicants, females. They want to do the bootcamp. We opened the advertisement for only 1 week, and the demand is huge. Again, that's what we are trying to do. But majority of these students, they enrolled with us because they came, they have good English skills, they have good communication skills, they have good also IT, they have good math. Then they start with us an academy, then they move forward, and we try to encourage them to major into the STEM area. So up to 2017, we used to have only 2 students majoring in IT. I'm speaking about female. Only 2 female students up to, so with the work what we did, so up to now, we have now 50% female and 50 male, and we have almost like 80 to 90 female students majoring in IT. So that's what we have been working on. During their study as undergraduate, what we are trying to do is every semester, we have something we call IT Day. In IT Day, we open like a competition, like every student will try to work in a project, and then we selected the best like project, like 10 project, but specifically we are targeting female to encourage them, and then we let them present, and there will be a judge and select the best, and they will get a prize. So that's what we do every semester. So when we were in Afghanistan, we established something, we call it IT Day, IT Poster Day, which is we gather from all different universities, like group of students, they submit their project, what they have done in the previous semester on the previous year, and then they do a competition, and then we also give a prize. So that has been done before, but now, because what happened after Taliban takeover, so we are working now online, we also continue doing this within the program itself. And the third phase, which is, okay, now we have a lot of alumni, we have a lot of female alumni, they graduated, okay, now what are they gonna do next? So, you know, it's very nice that the new students, when they come, they see an Afghan alumni is teaching them. So we take them from back then when they are high school until they graduate, and then when they see them like teaching them the math, teaching them the IT, the basic IT, at least in academy, so they can be a role model for them. So that's what we did. We hired many of our alumni to be part of also the academic group. And that's I think what we have been doing, and I think it's we will continue also supporting the female system area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ola. That's absolutely fantastic, and just to see the demand as well for the program, and the fact that you only opened the calls for 1 week, it just goes to show the need for these kind of opportunities and platforms. And I just think it's brilliant what you're doing in terms of the alumni as well. And so important for women to see role models in any sector, in any sphere, but specifically in science, technology, economics, and maths. And yeah, so I think that's what we're looking at trying to have as a really and certainly the Yunus Professional Masters already has a very strong mentorship approach. So certainly that's what we'll be looking to do as well. So yeah, thank you for that. We are going to open soon to have a dialogue session with our participants, and we have a few different questions, but we have a few more questions to ask our panel, but I would like to maybe see if we can keep it to two or 3 minutes. I know it's very short time, but I did want to just pose these questions. And the first one is, what specific learning approaches or competencies are crucial for preparing Afghan girls and women to become entrepreneurs and social business leaders? And I think Hosai, you touched a little bit on this before, just saying, supporting women to not feel dissuaded is a huge part. But in terms of the actual, competencies and skills needed for women to enter this sphere, what are the most important things to instill in women?
Thank you for the question. And well, it goes back to the idea. I think it's a mindset. So the persistence to continue to learn and empowerment. It's key that those leaders are there to make sure that continues with them. So in Let's Learn, the method of teaching has everything to do with this idea of, for instance, the method is learning woman's way. The motto basically means adding the feminine touch in learning. That means we create an environment where learning has a nurturing role in the context of Afghanistan. It becomes effective to empower women to continue their education. And further to learning approaches, it also has to be contextual. Again, I've touched on this previously as well. So using the resources already available into the country or in the country, it's important to master those first to become entrepreneurs and social business leaders. Basically, the idea of a ground-up approach is what we're talking about, where local is the emphasis, then connecting to regions, and then finally to the globe as social business leaders and entrepreneurs for these Afghan women. In general, if you look at it, women are more of social creatures. And compared to men, I would say that it may be a bias. And I make this statement based on the ease of learning languages, and I am going to go back to that, and being more descriptive in their vocabulary. And again, I see this as an asset in entrepreneurship and becoming social business leaders. It's a skill that comes to them naturally. And I call this the woman's way, as it adds to it as well. So there are basically these women in conflict and women building peace through the focus on entrepreneurship. Empowerment in this context is key, and continuous resilience a must in order to continue their education in science, technology, entrepreneurship, to build their careers and build their lives. This learning from the ground for women provides the platform to even discuss the basic needs to be taken care of on the ground, locally, contextually, through the Wi-Fi connection, which connects all these women, girls, to a common cause in order to develop their society and eventually their nation. A solution to basically reduce gender inequity and build out of a fragile state, because it basically begins with women through education.
Thanks, Hosai, and thank you for also highlighting, I think it's so important that women bring a very different kind of approach and a soft, a skill set. And I think it's so important to highlight that in this work and in entrepreneurship and their capacity for really forging a different kind of path and a different approach. And it's just, thank you for highlighting that. Shireen, did you also have some thoughts on this as well, the specific learning approaches and competencies that are really important for helping to prepare Afghan girls and women in to be entrepreneurs and in social business?
Yes, taking into account what dear Hosai just mentioned from the learner's point of view, I have seen this from and I view this as an educator from teaching point of view. And I think that the learning approach is also quite strongly shaped by our approach to the curriculum and the teaching method. So it is important to have a very clear journey for the learner. And the curriculum itself is very significant in terms of creating that path. So whether it's an aimed-based curriculum or an open-ended curriculum, we need to have a very clear and rich curriculum that has got the up-to-date content with the rest of the world's curriculum in science and in technology. And I'm not saying that they should be in the same level, but they should have the same richness in terms of content, so that the participants and the learners are not being sacrificed throughout this transition in time. And the progression of knowledge in the curriculum from one stage to another, that determines the approach that we have in teaching and learning. So the learners usually, they find the best way to absorb and understand the knowledge and put their knowledge into practice based on the way that we teach them. However, thinking cannot be rushed, and people take their own time based on their background, circumstances, and environment to absorb and understand and apply their knowledge. So all of these are factors that we need to consider when we are thinking about the pedagogical approach to teaching, and we expect learners to apply that knowledge. In that case, I think that in the interval of time is very important. So the time that it takes for a student who is absolutely outside of the setting and the environment that and other students can apply knowledge need to be taken into account. So all of these are quite important. Language and communication is very important. And I know that youngsters now, they are quite good in speaking the common language when it comes to technology, and science has got a common language across the world and globally. But still, we are talking about English language and terminology and vocabulary. These are all need to be taken into account because they're affecting the pedagogical approach into teaching and learning. And the way that we deliver the lesson, whether it's visual, situational, based on the circumstances, this is extremely important. How we assess formatively the learning and how we understand the learners from distance. And, even if they are presented with the background that they have, that they do understand and they learn deeply and effectively, and they can master the knowledge and put this into application. Their prior knowledge is really important. And sometimes we need to think about the foundation program, something to close the gap of the knowledge that they have throughout the transition. Resources is another factor that we need to think about, and most importantly, the cultural, emotional, and psychological background of the students, and the living environment, the family structures. All of these need to be taken into account, because each one of these are factors that affect the cognitive processes, affect the learning, and as a result, affect the understanding and application of knowledge. So. I think from a teaching point of view, from me, these are the main headings, but there are lots of bullet points that they can go under. I hope it helps.
Yes, thank you, Shireen. And it's, I think you've really raised that it's so important that it's, very well thought through. And as you say, learning is a journey, and it's how you take people on that journey, and that will ultimately, I think can, depending on the journey, and I think the person leading the journey, whether that's the teacher or the mentor, it can really make or break a person's, decision to pursue that and see themselves in that space. So I think you're so right about having a really clear, well thought out, and strong understanding of the context, and able to kind of tailor that education and learning journey, both for for the students learning itself, but then also in terms of how we teach, understanding who we have and learn, and how they absorb and then integrate and ultimately implement their knowledge. So yeah, thank you for that. That's very insightful. So thank you so much to all of our. This has been absolutely fantastic. It's just amazing to have this array of, difference and experience and expertise in the room. We really, really appreciate this. It's been a very rich, session. And then now we will open out to our dialogue session, and we will end at 3:30. So we have just a little over 15 minutes, and I'm going to open it to the floor for, I'd say, five or so minutes, and then we have 2 questions to our participants. Like to hear who we have in the room and understand your expertise, ideas, experience, and yes. So if you have a question for our panelists, or indeed Miss Gowrie as well, who talked a little bit about her experience at AIT in the beginning, if you could raise your hand, we will call on you. So I believe we have one hand in the chat. Moyen Sadiki, is that how you pronounce your name? Welcome for being with us. And if you have a question to a particular panel member, or if it's in general, please let us know. Thanks.
Hello and good afternoon. or good day for everyone. Uh, it's really a great move what I have seen in this panel, and I'm really happy for what's going to happen for the future of Afghanistan girl. Not only girl, boys and girl who are seeking education. What I have heard in this panel from Dr. Ala, I could understand at some points that he is trying to say that Afghanistan culture is that they are not ready to send their daughters for education, or they are not agree with education of their daughters. What I want to add here, it might be acceptable in some parts which are very far from cities, which are in the mountains, which people they are so far from education. I do agree with that. But we have seen in last 20 years a huge impact of education in all Afghanistan girls. I am sure that in all like 20 cities in Afghanistan that I have gone, and villages also, people are happy and girls are happy that they are going to school. And another point that I want to add here, that this webinar is also another support for the girls that they want to uh, get educated in Afghanistan. Taliban is a reality now at this point. We know and we cannot neglect it. But reality that we should take moves, we should do some steps that guarantee future of girls in Afghanistan. And I'm sure no one can stop girls from being educated. No one at this century, 21st century, and after 2010, it's like we cannot neglect it. In Arabic countries, we saw that Bahar Arab, we call it, in most of countries. And now we have three or four girls in this panel, that all of them are being they're supporting education for Afghan girls. Uh, I myself, I wanted to introduce myself at the first, but I got a little like confused. In this panel, still, some are saying that Afghanistan culture is in this way, that they don't want to educate their girls. I want to say that no, Afghanistan girls are suffering more than any other one at this time, now these days. And Afghanistan girls will be educated in the future. I'm sure that that will happen soon. And I myself, I'm electrical engineer. I'm doing my PhD in Andhra University in India. But now I'm living in Germany. I'm planning, I'm writing, and I'm trying to do to find the ways. What can I do for Afghan girls? You can just short note or write my name anytime if you have any program for learning an IT aspects or programming for girls in Afghanistan. I will be the only one who is at the first line for supporting Afghanistan girls. And I have been motivated by program you have taken here, and I will be with you all. No one words.
Thank you so much for those words of hope and inspiration and aspiration as well. I think you're so right. Despite the kind of, the contextual challenges, I think there is no stopping women and girls. But Dr. Ala, did you have a specific response to the first statement?
There is a misunderstanding. I did not say Afghanistan culture not allowing girls. I said Afghan culture is not encouraging women to take any STEM major.
I think I will open the floor now if we've no more questions for our panelists. I don't see any more hands up. We'll open the floor to 2 questions to both participants, but also perhaps our panelists. So if anyone has a response, actually, sorry, excuse me, we do have some questions, I believe. So Asma, I think you were first, so you have the floor. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, everybody. My name is Asma. I want to introduce myself. My name is Asma. I am from Palestine, and I am currently working in one of the Let's Learn members. And what encouraged me to join and empower women in Afghanistan, which is another country far away from mine, is that my mind cannot handle that is a woman can be banned from education. I mean, which is the basic right for anybody, woman or man, for a human being. So I just want to do something, and I I am very happy to have this opportunity to do something for women in any part of the world, just to help. And my question is, it's not a question actually, but it is a kind of adding something. You have mentioned all of the technical obstacles and education obstacles for women in Afghanistan, but I want to look to the situation from different point of view. I want to look to the situation from more psychological point of view. When the news come out and women are banned from education in Afghanistan, and when I see the situation in the news, are women crying in front of their college door, and they are banned from entering the exam. In that manner, I will put myself in that woman's shoes and say, well, I'm being traumatized. It's like in that woman, in that your mental health is like not anymore there. I mean, like you have been traumatized. You need some kind of a healing before starting again. I mean, like there is a mental health crisis inside Afghanistan right now, which is another obstacle, which cannot add another obstacle for her to come and encourage herself to take a point and to take a step to enter a class or join an inline class or other things. Because in that manner, she didn't feel confident enough to do so. So encouraging and motivation is the first thing to do for women in Afghanistan. You need to motivate her, encourage her to enter, and you need to go through a healing processes of like cover the things that she came through. I mean, she had been scared from getting an education, and that is what I want to add. It's the basic things just to understand any women. I mean, like, because we are so in terms of sensitivity, we are sensitive in terms of that, and we are more like to get traumatized and to be like holding by our thoughts, not anything else. So that is what I want to add, and thank you for allowing me to be here and join this kind of wonderful webinar.
Thank you so much, Asma. Really appreciate you being here with us, and also, you know, just to acknowledge the struggles for everybody, not just women, going on in Palestine at the moment. And it's just, you know, as Dr. Weiss, it's so important to be able to have these opportunities to collaborate regionally, but also in terms of, you know, contextually between countries that are experiencing similar struggles. So thank you for raising that really important point, and being here with us today. And I wonder if any of our panel or even opening up to, you know, Faiz or Noor, if anybody would like to respond. Muskan, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, actually, that's a very important point that you mentioned about mental health for all women that they are based in Afghanistan, or they left as a refugee. Now they're living in neighboring countries or in US even. So they have they're really traumatized. They are suffering from PTSD, anxiety, stress, or depression. So when we started our classes to serve Afghan women in neighboring countries in US, we found that most of our students are suffering from different situation. So right now, Eagle Online Academy just started our series of webinars just to help our students. It's not a clinical or counseling service, but it's just to provide them the information, what's depression, anxiety, stress management, and how you can do the self-care strategies, just to help our students to understand what's happening with them and how they can help themselves, and when it's important to contact with the psychiatrist or therapies, or talk with their caseworkers to help them with the next step. So yeah, and the other point is about Afghanistan. Mental health is a very sensitive topic, so it's not easy to talk with anyone directly. So that's why we always keep in mind while we are providing those webinars to talk to them more indirectly, but make them understand that what's happening in the duration of the process, that they leave the country, left everything behind, and they moved to US or they moved to other countries. They are suffering from not having job, or don't know the language, or learning learning the culture, adopting the new things around. So there's so much pressure for everyone that they are suffering from. So I do agree with the I'm so sorry, I don't know the name, but thanks so much. It's a very important point, and of course I do agree with her, and everybody should, all the programs I think should include some parts of mental health awareness programs to make sure that Afghan women or Afghan nations will get benefits of those programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Muskan. It's wonderful to hear that, as we've talked quite a lot about, tailoring curriculum to, specific, education and learning situations. It's so important to tailor, the other side, the environment to, and be, contextually sensitive to the learners themselves in terms of mental health, and to help give them the supports to be able to understand themselves, as well as kind of avail of the proper support. So I know Shireen, you also touched, I think, briefly on that, the importance of understanding the whole context, the whole person, the whole picture when we're designing and tailoring education and learning. So, yeah. I don't know if you wanted to say a quick few words on that, or but maybe just a minute or two if you had any.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, but as I mentioned, the thinking is very much influenced and affected by the environment. So, and when I say by the environment, I don't mean the typical word of environment that these days we're using in terms of global warming. I mean, what every person has gone through the journey of life. So we're talking about very basic things from childhood, having the structure of the family, all the changes that we have seen. And on top of that, then education and the basic rights of people are at risk, and they've been neglected because of that. That is another element to count in as part of the environmental effect. And yes, it does affect the learning. It does affect the mood of the learning. It does affect the thinking itself, the structure of the brain, the physiology and the biology of the brain and the body is affected by each one of these environmental effects. And it's very important to take into account who we are teaching. I do give most of the time in the teacher training, I do remind my students about an educator, James Dillon, who's an educator, a well-credited educator, who said about the whole approach to education depends on 7 questions from the educator's point of view. If they ask themselves that what we're teaching and why we're teaching it, whom we should be taught and who is teaching. And it's really, really important that the students and the learners' condition and circumstances from all aspects to be considered in all these calculations.
Yeah, thank you, Shireen. I think it's so important these days to have that tailored approach, and to make sure that education, as we've seen, all over the world, education is not really providing the the necessary skills and tools and things that we need to be able to respond to the challenges in the world that we face today, and tailoring and just being really conscious about the way that the learning journey is so important. So yeah, thank you so much to you both for raising those. So we are running a little bit out of time, but we had a few questions to pose to our participants. But what I would like to do is I would like to invite our participants maybe to have a think about these, and if they would like to be in touch with us and have further thoughts on these, maybe we could have an additional conversation. So if there are any participants who would like to be involved further, I'd like to just pose these two questions for us to maybe leave with and think about, given this amazing discussion that we've had today, and all the what our panelists have spoken about. So the two questions are: what impactful steps can be taken to empower Afghan women in technology, science, and entrepreneurship? And what technology-driven solutions should we be focusing on in Afghanistan and the region to address crucial education challenges related to teaching and learning? So these are big questions, and unfortunately we don't have time to address them in this final, few moments. But I would like to encourage us to all go away and think about these. And if you would like to discuss further with us or have any thoughts, we'd love to connect with you. So again, thank you so much to our panelists for today, Dr. Ala, Shireen, Hossain. Your experience and what you're doing in the world is so inspiring, and it's just so important. We talked a lot about role models as well, just to see that those opportunities are there, and we have people in the world who are creating these opportunities, and that these opportunities exist for women and girls. So it's just been wonderful to hear about your work, and thank you for the work that you're doing. It's absolutely incredible and very inspiring. And yeah, thank you to all our participants, and also to Noor. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking a little bit about your amazing project idea. We can't wait to see this, come into action. And I believe I will hand over to and Dr. Faiz and Kelly. Thank you so much as well for the work that you've been doing on this incredible program, and Kelly for really pulling this all together. And it's just wonderful to be a part of it. And so thank you for your tireless work in the background as well. And Mohibi, for your just amazing to I guess from where you and Kelly have come from, actually being part of the program to now to now being part of this. I think it's an example of what we've been speaking about the importance of having our alumni actually really involved in the process. So Mohibi and Kelly are both alumni of AIT, so it's just wonderful to see how that's feeding back now into the future development of the students and the program. So I will hand over to Dr. Mohibi for our closing remarks, and just thank you so much again for everyone for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Beifa. And as discussed, in 20 years, Afghanistan had very good achievement regarding women work, such as media, education, and also technology. And today I can see here is fantastic panelists, which most of them are women, and we can see how they are effective in the world, and also doing a great job in for the people of this planet, and also Dr. Allah as well. And we discussed regarding empowering women, and also training the educators or how to educate. They shouldn't be only job seeker, they should be job creator. And also in case of Afghanistan, the students which they are graduating, they are not should be only when they graduate, they should find their own way, not only study and to create the job. And also there is very important to have collaboration, and also in connection and within the context of Afghanistan or community-based things. And also there is lots of challenging issues, but when we educating the students, we should not put them in a situation they don't know how to do, or the situation especially for the women, they can't do any work. And we should have a curriculum kind of that's aim-based curriculum, which Shirin mentioned that about. And also, we should have international support in connection with different ideas. And finally, we should train the students. They should be job creator, not job seeker only. At the end, I would like to thank all the panelists and participants and all those supported this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you to our panelists, our organizers, and most of all, our participants, and to the Hollings Center for the International Dialogues as well for supporting this series of dialogues. So our next webinar will be in roughly a month, where we take another kind of more focused look at one of the themes that we are looking at in the Yunus Professionals Masters program. So I hope you will all join us for that next webinar. And again, thank you to everyone for being here with us today, and have a beautiful morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much. Bye.